Last weekend I was working around my house. I typically don't mow the lawn. It's my wife's, not her job, but she does it for me because I struggle with allergies really bad. We had to do the ditches, and she doesn't like doing those, so I get the privilege of doing those. I asked my friend and neighbor if I could borrow his mower, and it's a nice mower, but it's also loud. So I'm doing the ditches. It takes me about an hour and a half to do the ditches and then some of the yard. After the hour and a half gets done, I'm in this machine and it's loud, and as I turn the engine off, there's a sound of nothing. When you turn something off and it's loud, there's this deafening sound of silence, which almost doesn't seem possible. How can something be deafening when it's quiet? Currently, we're going through this series on the book of Revelation, which is filled with imagery, symbolisms, and events that are really hard to understand and to make out the meaning of them. We've had 7 chapters that are describing everything that's taking place in heaven, and heaven is a busy place. Everything that's happening in heaven ultimately is affecting everything that is taking place back on earth. Then in verse 1 of chapter 8, it says that when the Lamb, Jesus, broke the 7th seal on the scroll, there was silence throughout heaven for about half an hour. So imagine, for eternity, there's been noise, shouting, activities, and everything. And then we get to this point where there's nothing. All activities cease, and there's silence for about the span of 30 minutes. There's no description of silence in heaven ever having taken place prior to this or taking place after. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't, but there's just no indication. So when we get to this part, it's really hard to try to discern or to try to figure out what is taking place. With everything else, we've been able to go to the Old Testament and say, okay, here's an example of what's taking place, and this is what's happening here in the New Testament. John is recording, he's writing down what is taking place in an environment that is not confined by space or time. So it's going to present these 2 questions. How was he able to perceive the time that had passed when there is no way to measure time? Second, what is the significance of the 30 minutes to begin with?